Hi not board gamers, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now in today's video we are going to be discussing my top 10 favourite solo games that came out in 2024. It's that time of year when content creators love to put out this list, and of course all of these views are entirely personal as well. Some of the games in my list may not be to your liking, and I may well have omitted some games that you think are just, surefire kind of shoe-ins towards top 10 list for 2024, and you may not be happy with that, and that's absolutely fine, because these are the games I've enjoyed playing the most in 2024, and it's been a pretty good year for games as well, as are most years. There's been some really great games released, there's been some fantastic conventions that's taken place. I think I've done Aircon this year, I've done UK Games Expo, I've done Essen, I've done GridCon this year. It's been a year of absolutely some fantastic gaming, and I really enjoyed a hell of a lot of this, as well as getting the obviously not unique, but a fairly special ability to preview some games that are coming out in, obviously into next year as well. Some fantastic Kickstarters and GameFound campaigns come that have been released, etc., and some of the games I'm really looking forward to being released into next year. But however, let's just start, before I dive into the top 10, let's just start with some honourable mentions. Some games which didn't quite make my top 10 this year. The first one on the list is going to be Mythwind. Now, Mythwind from Open Owl Studios is this wonderful kind of open, how can you put it, this kind of open-ended game where you just keep playing and playing. It's a very gentle game. You get to choose various characters you can play from, and you're building up the towns and the cities, and each character is asymmetric. It's truly not a game for everyone because it has no real end. You continue playing until you've kind of done as much as you want to do, and then you can reset and try it with a different character and start all over again. But it's a really kind of Zen-like experience that I know is not for everybody, but I've really, really enjoyed. Another honourable mention is Galileo Galilei from the relatively hot, is it Thomas Holleck, I think he's called. And I picked this up at Essen, and I've really enjoyed this. It's not the deepest game in the world, and you're astronomers, and you're kind of searching the night sky and trying to get the constellations, etc. The solo plays really, really well. It can, after quite a few plays, start to feel a bit the same, but it's a game that doesn't take that long to play. It's relatively easy to learn, and I've had quite a lot of fun with when I've played it. Now, as well as honourable mentions, there are two games that I've had early access copies to. And these two games would be right at the top of my list for 2024 had they actually been released just as of yet, but they haven't, okay? So therefore, I've not included them in my 2024 list, but I do say that they would, one of them would be number one, and the other one would probably be number 3 in the list. Now, the one at number 3 is Captain's Chair. It's from WizKids, and it's by David Turksey and Nigel Buckle, and it's based on the Imperium system, and it's, of course, a Star Trek themed deck building game. I think this is fantastic. Now, this is coming from a person that that didn't really gel, should I say, with Imperium. It uses some of the same DNA as Imperium, but it's a crunchier, better game. I'm not a Trekkie by any stretch of the imagination, but since I've had the early review copy, and my review will be coming out very early in the new year of Captain's Chair, I played this, I want to say, around about 15 times now, mainly solo, but a few games with a 2-player as well. I think it's an absolutely exceptional game. The bots, should I say, because each captain has their own bot that you can play against, is really easy to manage. The amount of depth and crunch that you get out of a card game is just absolutely fantastic. And for somebody that wasn't enamored with Imperium and is not a Trekkie, I couldn't tell you a Picard from a Burnham, basically. I mean, I can slightly, but I don't really know any of the alien races. I mispronounce all the things there. I think it is just the Star Trek game that Star Trek fans have been waiting for. It's absolutely fantastic. I don't think WizKids will be releasing it until January, February of 2025. So therefore, it's not made the top my games of 2024 list. But a really good honourable mention for Star Trek Captain's Chair. The next one, and I've had an early review copy of this since I think around about August time, and I put in more than 70 hours into this game now. It is now my favourite game of all time, but again, it's due to get to backers any time now, and I think that's just going to eke into 2025. And of course, I'm talking The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era from Chip Theory Games. It takes everything that you knew and loved about kind of Too Many Bones and improves on it from my perspective. I still love Too Many Bones. It improves on it from my perspective. I've played numerous campaigns of this since I've had it. I played it at 1-player, 2-player and 3-player as well. And I've enjoyed everything about it. Working across these kind of the three, you play kind of 3 scenarios in a campaign. The 3 scenarios in each campaign, doing multiple campaigns, trying different character builds. Really, really just kind of hits every nail on the head for me in terms of a game. It is my favourite game of all time. It's usurped Kingdom Death Monster as my favourite solo game of all time. And the reason it's not in my list right now is because backers haven't received it. So it felt unfair of me to put Elder Scrolls in on my list. So that's going to make for a really kind of interesting top 10. So without much further ado, let's go into the top 10. At number 10, we have Creel Manor from All or Nothing Games. This is Tristan Hall's latest game, set in the Killforth universe, and it's a card-based kind of, I want to call it a dungeon crawler, where you're going to go through and you're going to have various adventures as you go through. You're going to, again, different characters that you're going to build, battling enemies. You've got to clear the enemies to clear a room or to clear an adventure to move on to the next one. Now, I played Veilwraith before, and I like Veilwraith enough, and I think it's a really good solo game. I haven't played any of the Killforth games, but Creel Manor for me is a game that I can set up and I can play a scenario, if you like, in about an hour, and I have a really good time kind of having the dichotomy of what to do with the cards, whether to battle, whether to strengthen, whether to defend, whether I can get upgrades, etc. I think Creel Manor is it does exactly what it needs to do in terms of delivering a solo, accessible, relatively quick to play with a good amount of crunch, card-based dungeon crawler. And I think Tristan has done a fantastic job, and hence the reason that Creel Manor is number 10 of my top 10 solo games released in 2024. Now, at number 9 is the best game that nobody is playing right now. And this is Conquest Princess, Fashion is Power from Fight in a Box, designed by Seppi Yoon. This is a game that barely met its Kickstarter goals. And let me tell you, if you haven't got this game, you're missing out on one of the best kind of crisis threat management games that are out there. It's absolutely batshit crazy in terms of what it is. You play an intergalactic crew of fashionistas who are out in space, and you're trying to defeat various bad guys in space across various maps. You've got multiple good boards going on, and these boards can be different things, whether it's a giant worm swimming its ways down, or whether it's alien space, like a space invader, as well as managing crisis on your ship. You have various objectives to fulfill. You have kind of upgrades to do for your characters as well. And all the while, it's taking place in this wacky and wonderful kind of universe, if you like, that Seppi and the guys at Fight in a Box have created. It's absolutely fantastic. And the production quality is really, really top notch. But do not let its kind of cartoony look belie the depth of challenge here. This is a truly challenging game. It will kick your butt. The end always seems inside, but it is a real challenge. It's one of the toughest games I've played, and one of the most fun games I played in the last kind of 12 months or so. I think it takes up a lot of table space, there's no denying that, but in reality, what Seppi and the guys in Fight in a Box have delivered here is a game that, had it come from a bigger publisher and had more of a push, I think would be out. More people would be talking about this game. But as it stands, I'd say it barely eked over its Kickstarter goal. The production quality for a game that barely did that is really, really fantastic, and the gameplay is relatively straightforward to learn, but the gameplay is so good, and you will constantly have this kind of battle with yourself about whether to control the threat, whether to take a hit, whether to be on this board over here managing the giant wormy mechapede thing, or whether you're doing the Space Invader thing here, or trying to rescue the pets, or whatever it is. It's fantastic, and I really wish more people were out there playing Conquest Princess, Fashion is Power, which is my 9th favourite game of 2024. Coming in at 8 is from Eagle Griffin is Vital Lacerda's Inventions. Now, I know that some people were slightly disappointed with Weather Machine, Vita's prior release to this. I really liked Weather Machine. It was a bit too abstract for some. Inventions is more of that kind of feedback into the norm of what you expect with a Vital Lacerda game. As you span eons and eras and you're taking your civilization through the various stages, looking at inventions, creating new inventions, adapting inventions, and maybe getting the benefits of other people's inventions as you work your way through the various eras to the ultimate end and bring you right into the modern age, and the person with the most points will obviously win. The bot is really, really well designed and very, very easy to use as well, but the game offers a lot of depth. It's a game that's going to take you a couple of plays to understand how the various mechanisms link together, but once you do, it's got that beautiful Vital trademark of comboing and linking various things to maximize what you do each and every turn. I think Inventions is a I want to say true return to form, but I didn't think I really enjoyed Weather Machine. But for those that were a bit, Weather Machine was too abstract, then it's true return to form. However, I also got to preview Vital's next game, which is Speakeasy, which will be released next year. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. But coming in at number 8 for me is Inventions from Vital Lacerda. And coming in at number 7 is a game which I missed the Kickstarter on, and then I saw Michael Kelly's video over at One Stop Coat Shop, and I thought, oh God, another campaign game that I think I might have to get. So I picked it up at UK Games Expo, and this is Agamonia. It's another big box campaign game, and as much as I keep saying to myself, I've got too many campaign games, this one really piqued my interest. And do you know what? It is fantastic. It is a commitment. It is a table hog, but you, again, this really great evolving story and narrative as you're playing through the various scenarios. You get this this book that you open up that you do your adventures on, and adventures on, and your characters will adapt and upgrade, and there's secrets to open and all sorts to do in Agamonia. I've spent quite a bit of time in Agamonia, but nowhere near enough time in Agamonia, and it's a game I'm determined to get back to the table early next year, because so far Agamonia has been a big hit on all counts for me. I haven't got the minis, I've just got the kind of base game box, if you like. It is a big bloody box, but even so, you've got all the various game trays and everything that happens in there. The production quality is really good. The rules are really relatively straightforward. There is some minutiae that you'll pick up more and more as you play the game, but there's a good intro kind of tutorial first scenario that you can play that really takes you into the game. But Agamonia, if you're looking for a really well evolved narrative campaign game, then go seek out Agamonia, and that's my number 7. At number 6 is a game from Mindclash. It's a 1 to 2 player game. It's part of their retail releases, I think. No, it wasn't. It was a Kickstarter, wasn't it? Yeah, but it's part of their lighter series of games. And of course, I'm talking about Ironwood, an asymmetrical skirmish game, which is obviously has got solo bots for either side as well. Now, the solo bots, for those who like a simple solo bot, they're a little bit more involved than what you may like on this, designed by David Turksey, but they work absolutely fantastically well, and you can play a game of Ironwood in round about 60 minutes. It's really quick to set up. The rules, getting used to what each faction does, because they're both asymmetric, and then what each bot does, can take a little bit of getting your head around. But once you grasp those rules, you get this really, really good skirmish game. And to tell you the truth, in terms of bringing a game out where you can set it up, play it within about an hour, and then put it away, it's perfect for that. I played it again 1 player a number of times. I played it 2 player as well, and had a great time kind of understanding the strengths of each of the factions. The Woodwalkers or the Ironclad is really key to understanding your strategy and how you're going to succeed in that. So that is my number 6, which is Ironwood. Now, coming in at number 5 is a game that I wasn't sure I was going to like. And why? Because it's a deck builder. Now, I know I mentioned Captain's Chair, Star Trek Captain's Chair earlier, which again is a deck builder. And this game is a deck builder, and deck builders aren't necessarily my favourite genre of games. But I've really, really enjoyed my time with this. I haven't really played the video game it's based on. Of course, I'm talking about Slay the Spire, which is going to be in a lot of people's top 10s this year. Again, a game that is pretty straightforward to learn how to play. I don't think the rulebook's the best, but irrespective of that, it's pretty straightforward in learning how to play. But the sense that you get of progression as your characters start to get stronger and you start to kind of go through your deck and curate your deck a little bit better and try and make it so that you're more effective and you get into those cards quicker is really, really good. Of course, it's a roguelike game. So when you die, death is not the end. In fact, death is a requirement sometimes in Slay the Spire because you need to go back and then build up some strength again so you can go through. You may kind of breeze or just get by, not breeze, but you may get by Act 1, but trust me, when you move into Act 2, things really start to kick your butt, and it's got 3 acts in the game, and you're different characters. Each character has their own deck. There's unlockables in Slay the Spire. Now, as I say, I haven't really played the video game it's based on that much. Maybe I've spent less than an hour on the video game, but I've put a lot of time into Slay the Spire. Myself and my wife were playing it over Christmas as well. She's not a board gamer. She really, really enjoyed Slay the Spire, and for that reason, Slay the Spire has come in at number 5 on my games of the year. Right, before we get to the second half of my list now, let's talk about a few of the games that were a bit of a miss for me. First of all, let's talk about a game which is undoubtedly a good game. A game which lots of people are enjoying, and I think it's really well designed, and the solo works very, it's a nice and simple solo that works for it. It just didn't work for me. And of course, I'm talking, if you saw my review recently, I'm talking about SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. SETI is not a bad game. And some people, it's going to be their game of the year, and I absolutely get and understand that. From a solo perspective, he just didn't quite work for me. The bot, for me, didn't have enough engagement. The bot had a default scanning action, which for me, again, happened too many times. I know for some people, it didn't happen, and that's not too much of an issue. And the game runs a bit long as well. So I played SETI about half a dozen times solo. I won't be getting him back out again. In fact, I got rid of my copies. I won't be getting SETI back out solo. I'd happily play it with other people. But, and I'm not saying SETI is a bad game. It is not a bad game. It's just a game that missed the mark for me, and that's purely down to personal preference. Another one, which a lot of people seem to be loving, and I just didn't get at all, is Let's Go to Japan, which is a schedule planning game in Japan, which is all about the scoring, basically, at the end of the game. You're getting your cards, you're planning out where they go in the week, etc., your cities that you're going to travel, and various things on the board. It's okay. Let's Go to Japan is just okay. I played it again about half a dozen times. I have no desire to play it again, either on my own or with anybody else. I don't get why people are enjoying it so much. The artwork is good, it's kind of quirky, but ultimately it's very, very thin, I find, in terms of gameplay. I'm not seeing the strategy, I'm not seeing the replayability here. I could be completely wrong in that, and it may well just be a game that's not tailored to my particular style, but Let's Go to Japan. Yeah, done it, been there, done it, gone. The final miss is by far and away the worst game I played in 2024. It's barely a game. It's a true kind of indication, not a true indication, true reflection of everything that's wrong with an IP, where you've got an existing mechanism and you force an IP into it to make it fit. And I've got it down here. I'm not even going to bother picking the box up because I thought it was just a sleeve. I'm talking about The Last of Us, Escape the Dark. Oh my God, this is terrible. I blindly backed it on Kickstarter a couple of years ago, and I got the deluxe version with the playmat. I've not even opened the playmat. This is such a paper-thin game. Now, I understand that kind of, is it Escape the Dark Sector or whatever it's called? People love those games. I've never played them. And they feel suited for the kind of game that they are. This is nothing. The Last of Us Escape the Dark is nothing but a glorified P&P in a very expensive game. There are a number of locations on the map, and you go to these locations and you clear them out, and you got obviously the clickers or whatever they're called, as threat on there. But each location only has a limited number of cards in the box, and the first 2 locations that you're ever going to visit, I think they've got like 5 in the box, 5 locations in the box, and you choose 3 of them. You're going to see them a number of times. It is a purely random dice fest with minimal mitigation as well. Yes, there is some mitigation, minimal mitigation in there. And once you kind of gone through a few locations, and certainly once you've kind of completed the game or died in the game, you've pretty much seen all it's got to offer. It is an atrocious game. It is one that I would avoid if I was you. Even out of a morbid sense of curiosity, I would avoid. After 2 years in the making, some great production values, and it's a glorious looking game. What you've got is an awful glorified P&P game that is almost not worth the paper that is printed on. Save yourself. Do not go and buy The Last of Us Escape the Dark, a complete and utter IP abomination here. It's everything that's wrong with licensed products, if you like. Just avoid The Last of Us Escape the Dark. So that was my kind of, we're getting on to the top 4 now, okay? So the top 4 are my games now. At number 4 is this game you see on the table right here. It is Civolution. I didn't really have any interest in Civolution when I first heard about it, and I didn't try and pick it up at Essen. It just didn't kind of, I don't know, I just didn't know much about it, and I think the only other, it's a Feld game, isn't it? I think the only Feld game I've played is Castles of Burgundy, which I have coming the reprint. But I decided to pick this up at GridCon, and boy, am I glad I did. Civolution it's not a civilization game, as the pigeonholers will tell you. It's a variation on a civilization game. But Civolution is a game where your options, where the breadth of the game is perhaps greater than the depth, and you're expanding out on the map, and you're exploring territories, and you're getting resources, and you're building statues, and on your console, which is this thing here, you've got, God knows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, at least 16 actions that you can take each and every turn, depending on what dice you roll. The bot, it feels like, because the game is quite complex to learn, but that's not down to the actual gameplay, that's purely down for the breadth of the options that you've got. So therefore it would feel like the bot is going to be difficult, but it's not. The bot is surprisingly easy to run, and it provides a real challenge as well. It does, of course, have difficulty modifiers on there. Essentially, you're going to be flipping cards, carrying out the actions on the cards, then it's going to be resetting. Civolution is great. I'm having a lot of fun with Civolution. I think, for a game that it's one of the surprises, when you're not expecting anything, or you know very little about something, but you take a punt on it and you're like, boy, am I glad I did. It's a game that I keep setting up and playing. Setup, teardown can be a little bit long, and certainly resetting, if you're doing 2 games on the bounce, takes almost as much time as kind of setting the game up in the first place. But I'm having a lot of fun with Civolution, hence the reason that it's number 4 on my list. Okay, now on to number 3. Now, the AI and the bot in this game is almost the antithesis of everything that SETI is. SETI is a nice, easy to kind of control bot, which, doesn't have too much overhead. The bot in this game, for some people, is off-putting because it has a lot of overhead. But this is a game, when I got it at Essen, I played it when I got back, and I played it, and I played it, and I played it, and I played it at 2-player, and I played it at 4-player, I played it again 7 or 8 times solo. And of course, I'm talking about Unconscious Mind. I think this is an absolutely fantastic game if you know what you're getting into. And again, it's a game of choices, this game is, where you've got a whole kind of psychoanalysis thing going on, where you're choosing patients to see if you can resolve and interpret what's happening in their dreams, and you're moving around the towns and activating different things on the towns, and you've got your potions bottle that you're moving around the board, and the AI on this is a fairly complex AI that, as you get later in the game, its turns can take almost as long as your turns can take, and that can be really off-putting for some people, and I completely understand why it's not for some people. But for people like me who tend to like AIs a little bit more involved and a little bit more complex and a little bit more kind of representative of another player, then Unconscious Mind absolutely hits the mark for me. I've not played with all the modules, I don't have all the expansions or all the deluxe stuff, but I do have the Nightmares expansion, and that is one that I would put in every single time when I play the game. game. I wouldn't play it. Well, I would play it without without Nightmares expansions, but in reality, if I'm playing Game of Unconscious Mind, I will play it with with the Nightmares expansions. I think Unconscious Mind is an absolutely first-rate experience for those who know what they're getting into. The number of choices that you can make is fantastic, but if you get overwhelmed by a lot of choices, then that can be off-putting, and just how that bot acts and activates each and every turn, and how aggressive it can be in certain cases as well, and challenging as well, is, again, can be off-putting for some people. But for me, it's one of those games where I'm a big proponent of a solo mode that fits the game that it's there for. You can get complex games that have 2 simple solo modes, or simple games that get 2 complex solo modes. When you hit that balance absolutely right, which Johnny Pat Canting has done here, you really hit the mark, and that's exactly what Unconscious Mind has done for me. It's just got me to that place where I think, yes, this is exactly the kind of game that I want to play, with the solo mode that I want to play, where I'm going to lose myself for a couple of hours, and I'm going to be stressing about what the AI is going to do next, what are their potentials that they can do next, what am I going to do next as well to counteract that and also advance me on. I'd say potentially, it is thematic enough, but potentially the weakest part of the game is actually the dreams themselves. Some beautiful artwork on there, but at some point you do just feel like you're kind of pushing cubes, but you're moving stuff down. So you've got to kind of just allow for that. It's a key part of the game. I'm not saying it's weak. I'm saying the link to the theme from kind of interpreting the dreams is potentially the weakest. I'd like to see a little bit more interaction from what happens there, but other than that, I think Unconscious Mind is a surprise hit for me in this year. Okay, final 2 now. And at number 2 is a huge game, certainly if you backed everything, which I did. I previewed it, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, and instantly backed everything that I could get for this game. And let me tell you, I have not been disappointed. I am talking about Primal the Awakening. This is everything you want in a boss battler game. It has some fantastic card play and a sheer number of cards that you can get for all of the various monsters, all of the characters, all of the upgrades. Is absolutely huge. The card box that you get for it is massive if you bought the card box organised and got all the sleeves in there as well. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough good things about Primal the Awakening. I played Monster Hunter World, whatever it was, from Steamforged earlier this year, and it's okay. It's okay. But this is the monster hunting boss battling game that you want. You can play it as one-offs, or you can go through the many different campaigns that are in there as well. It's just an exemplary piece of development where they've taken an idea and they've really put the time and effort into fleshing it out and making everything work as much as it possibly can. And let me tell you, it really, really, really does. If I have any complaints about Primal the Awakening, there's just too much stuff. And it's going to take me years to get through all of this, and it's going to be some of the best journeys I've ever had. When I know I want to kind of just lose myself in an epic boss battle that's going to last 1 to 2 hours or something like that, then I will set up Primal the Awakening and I will lose myself for a long time in this. Playing, I think I've got 2 characters on the go when I'm playing solo, playing those, kind of bouncing off each other's because you have cards in each one can use cards to help the other characters out in them. Looking at the dynamic terrain that goes around there, you've got what feels like a pretty static map, but it's not, because you have various various terrain that goes on there. You've got the I think it's called the inverted battle system, something like that, where the monster doesn't get a turn, but it reacts to what you do in your turn, and it's going to move around the map. So it's going to move its facing around the map as you circle it, or it circles you. Certain parts of it will not be open to attack. Other parts of it will. It will come at whoever's got the priority token at any one point, and it's going to change. And you may get to a point where you think you're going to win, and then it the whole game will flip, and you've really got to struggle in a fight on your hands. I think, as I say, Primal the Awakening for me is everything I wanted in a boss battle. I love games like Kingdom Death Monster and Aeon Trespass. I love all of the parts of that game, but of course we all love the battles of that game. Primal Awakening has taken that boss battling element and made it the sole focus of it. The campaign, everything that happens in the campaign is all great, it's all good, and it helps build up your characters and give you access to new weapons and increased weapons, etc. But the main focus is this really dynamic, fascinating, engaging and challenging boss battle that you're going to be doing. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, so it came out on Kickstarter, I think it was. They're not doing any more Kickstarter campaigns. It's now all available to buy on their web store, I believe. And it's quite a hefty investment if you want to get everything, but you don't necessarily need everything. You can start off with the base game and add to it from time over time. But from the moment it arrived, I was so excited. I think I spent 3 days sleeving and sorting the cards. That's how long it took, kind of 3-4 hour sessions, whatever it was, because it's a sheer number of cards. But let me tell you, it was so worth it. And I barely scratched the surface with Primal the Awakening. And with the amount of fun I've had in it and the amount of hours that I put into it, I can't wait to play it again. I played it 1 and 2 player. I haven't played it. I have played 1 4-player game as well at GridCon, but I'd love to play it more with my friends and kind of explore it from a 4-player perspective. But Primal the Awakening for me is an absolutely first-class boss battler. If you're looking at a pure boss battling game, it's probably the best that there is out there. That is Primal the Awakening. Okay, drum roll. My number 1 game of the year. Now, I know I mentioned right at the beginning that if Elder Scrolls Battle for the Second Era had been released this year, that would be my number 1 game this year. And that is not to take anything away from this game, because this game is fantastic. I played it a few times through its development. I played it a number of times. I got an early access to a really early production copy after UK Games Expo when the publisher came and brought a copy to my house because they were in the UK for a bit. And I think back in, I want to say 2020, the designer's previous game was my favourite solo game of 2020. This is my number 1 solo game for 2024, and of course I am talking Andromeda's Edge, designed by Luke and Maximus Lorry, with the art by Sergio Chavez and published by Cardboard Alchemy. This is everything I wanted this game to be. It takes the kind of the DNA of Dwellings of Eldervale, which I absolutely adore Dwellings of Eldervale, but Andromeda's Edge provides more strategy, more paths to victory, more things to do, more mitigation that you've got. You've got diplomacy, you have kind of combat cards that will help you maybe run away from a fight. Combat is not everything in this game. Depending on which faction you choose, there are numerous factions you can choose from. Each one has their own powers and they're balanced so exceptionally well. You do not need the big all-in deluxe version that I got with all the miniatures. The retail version is absolutely fantastic as well. But let me tell you, when you put this on the table, it is such a sight to behold. There is an element of crunch in this game. There is a learning curve in this game. And, with a game like this, it's got lots of different moving parts. You're going to have to be across those rules. So make sure you check out the kind of FAQs and BGG for the rules. But once you've got it down, what you've got is a game that is absolutely fantastic. Now, Unity, the bot, comes with different difficulty levels in there and different captains that you play against for Unity. The bot is so well designed and so easy to operate as well that you will have a really challenging game against Unity. And the best thing about Unity, which is the solo AI, is you can throw it in. So I played, a 2-player game with Unity as well, and we both got our asses kicked by Unity. Obviously, I played so many times solo. I played it at all players. So I played it 1-player, 2-player, 4-player, and 5-player. I haven't played it at 3-player yet, if you discount 2 players plus Unity. So I haven't played it at 3-player yet, but I played all of those. It is an absolutely astounding solo game. Now, there's a guy on the forums, a guy called Mark Dandridge, who's in love with Dwellings of Eldervale. He's now played Andromeda's Edge since he got it over 100 times, and he's still finding new things to do with it. I can't claim to have played it anywhere near that amount, probably a tenth of that amount in total, but every time I play it, I know I'm in for an absolutely joyous ride. It's just so, when you get that when you're working out your strategy and you manage to pull off those few moves that you think, oh wow, it actually worked, yeah, it's fantastic. But also when you get your strategy and Unity pulls something out of the bag, or a raider comes in and starts kicking your ass, you think, oh my god, it was so close, but I could see the path to victory there. And every time I've lost, you always pick up on what you could have done differently and could have done better. But of course, the next time you play, you try doing that, and something else will come in as well. So you've got to be aware of the multiple strategies and multiple paths that Unity is going to take, and other players, if you're playing against other players, and how best to counteract them whilst still trying to achieve your overall goals. I think is absolutely an astounding game. I'm more than happy to call Andromeda's Edge my #1 solo game of 2024. I know Luke and Maximus put years of development in this. I'd say saw it through various phases, and the finished product is better than I could have hoped for. It's just such an utterly fantastic game. It can be long, it takes quite a while to set up, quite a while to tear down, and it can be a long game to play, so do know that. But once you've got those rules down, once you start playing against Unity, you are going to have such an amazing solo experience that all you're going to want to do when you finish playing the game is set it back up and play it again. And for those reasons, Andromeda's Edge from Luke and Maximus Laurie, with the art by Sergio Chavez, from Cardboard Alchemy, is my top solo game of 2024. And there we go. That's it. That's my top 10 solo games of 2024, with some games that were a little bit of a miss for me, some honourable mentions, and of course, mentioning the fact that the list would have changed somewhat had The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era and Star Trek Captain's Chair actually been released and delivered to backers this year. They're not early copies that I've got, so therefore they don't count in my 2024 list. Look, I say all these lists, from whichever content creator you watch, are purely subjective, all right? They are my opinion. You may agree, you may disagree. By all means, put your own top 10 lists in the comments below. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just about the games that you enjoy. And these are the 10 games I've enjoyed the most in 2024. So, first of all, I'd just like to thank you all for watching the channel over the last 12 months and beyond, obviously. It's about 5 years old now, the channel. For watching the channel, and for sticking with me through sometimes some hiatus in some of the content. Work, family life, etc. just gets in the way. I don't get to produce content quite as much as I would like to, but I've had some great gaming moments in 2024. I'm really looking forward to gaming moments in 2025 as well and beyond, and just seeing what happens there. So from me to you, have a fantastic new year. I hope you have some great gaming experiences in the months and years to come. And one final thought: if you can't find anyone else to play with, then there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.